Think about the conversations that have made a real difference in your working life. Maybe a mentor or a manager took time to discover who you are, or they pushed you to take on a stretch project that led to great things. The simple power of a good conversation can be deceptive. And today, we want to give you 10 compelling reasons why embedding career conversations into your work and your work review patterns is going to deliver business results and even grow your bottom line. And we will help you immediately make the case to implement the key business growth leader that most people miss in their retention and talent strategy.
Welcome to the Career Equation podcast, where HR and business leaders discover how to grow and mobilize their talent through powerful career conversations.
So welcome again, folks. And today is all about the tangible benefits of career conversations. With all the complexity of implementation and spend that comes from a new LMS or a performance management system, a new leadership program, it's really easy to overlook how the day-to-day dialogue between your business and your people can make an enormous difference. If you remember the principle of 70-20-10, when we think about learning stuff, we know that most of learning happens in that 70% on the job itself. And career conversations are that 70% on the job. They are free, they take nothing but time, and when they're done well, they give everybody actionable results and real ROI when it comes to retention and engagement.
Absolutely, Erica. So what we're going to do today is set out what the business benefits are for the employee, how to sell that idea really effectively to the most resistant in the community, which quite often is the team and the managers themselves, and we'll illustrate how career conversations can also keep the CFO happy. So if you're looking for a strong business case for bringing career conversations modality into your firm, then I think you're going to like this one.
Many of you will know the career equation by now, but just for clarity and for any new listeners who are joining us for the first time, let me run you through the model. So the career equation is a very simple and practical framework for deep diving into career conversations in a structured and powerful way. Once you know the model, you can use it to have laser-focused conversations of 5, 10, 15 minutes, but you can also use it as a structured deep dive across the business and embed it at all ages, stages, job families, tenures, seniorities, and all of that good stuff. The equation came about because of my background as a career coach. It's been over 20 years now, working with thousands of different people across a wide range of industries and organizations, and discovering that most of them didn't have a framework to articulate what they wanted out of work. And organizations, therefore, didn't really know how to help them in getting what they want because that clarity wasn't available. So the equation is a model that makes it simple for that conversation to happen on both sides in a structured way and for the business to benefit from the insights that arise from it. So the equation says this, that a thriving career is made of 4 components. The first 3 are about the person's character. What are they good at? What are their skills? Add that to their passions. What do they like? What do they enjoy? What gives them energy? What's the favorite bit of their work that they do? And then impact. How do they define success and legacy and work that's worthwhile? So we've got skills plus passion plus impact. And then these things are multiplied by environmental fit squared. What we mean by that is that things can be exponentially better when a person has not just the right role for their life design and character, if you like, but also for the environments that support them to do their best work. So skills plus passion plus impact times environmental fit squared is what we want to be able to create a thriving career.
I think when we first met many of our clients, Erica, didn't we? They would often say things like, why would I talk to my people about their careers? You know, and that's fundamentally changed because that was way back in 2018. And it just shows how much times have changed. Post-pandemic, most of us understand that individuals want to know where they're going, where their career could take them in your business and how to get there. Yet when we ask firms, so who do I talk to about my next move if I was in your business? Most of the time, they're not really sure or certainly not very clear on the go-to places in the organizations for those kinds of conversations.
And not only that, but I think they're still nervous about the opportunity of this as a key business lever. that it can really make a huge difference when it comes to retention, engagement, internal mobility, meritocracy and transparency in recruitment, and longer tenure. They're still a little bit anxious about whether that is too good to be true, how they might begin it, where it might sit. And of course, we're dealing with some very smart cookies here, our clients. So it seems to us that if they aren't doing it yet, then probably we still need some help with convincing on the business benefits and enrolling perhaps other people around you to be up for giving this a go. So we wanted to give you a kind of roundup that will help you either to convert you yourself to feeling more confident about the benefits, or to help you to convince others and advocate for a whole business framework for career conversations that's not only going to be valuable to you right now, but is going to be business critical as we get faster and faster and the world of work continues to evolve in this very dynamic way.
Yeah. And so I think first up, number one, that it will give much clearer insight into an employee's ability. So what's new here in this concept, in this way of thinking, is that you'll have a systematic understanding of an employee's skills, their strengths, gifts and talents, and their potential. And visibility of hidden or underused talent across the firm becomes much clearer, and a chance for them really to discover for themselves an orientation system for their own careers. So they're, driving their own ownership of their career and creating possibility for you. In terms of business benefits, then we're talking about better redeployment of talent, about reducing the sort of skills gap that seems evident at the moment in the business, a strong succession planning model. So we've got a much clearer strategy about who's coming in next, where are they coming from, what are they going to need to support them, and also lower recruitment costs. And who doesn't need that these days?
Totally. And the key element here is about this visibility. With so many of our clients, they are, of course, investing time, money, energy, thought into who's the talent, where are they going, where are their skills gaps, how might we keep them for longer? Those are active questions. But they are doing that based on all kinds of assumptions about what they think people want, where they think they want to go. And so actually the embedding of a clear career dialogue framework allows you to test those assumptions and instead use data to inform a more custom, collaborative, co-designed way of navigating career for your critical talent, and to be able to really base the investments that you make, whether it's time or money or new systems or whatever, on real world information about what they want. Most organizations only have the employee engagement data, which kind of gives them the answer to a couple of vague questions around careers, but doesn't actually deep dive into what the individual wants. So that's the business benefit right there. That insight comes from having a meaningful conversation and having information to work with. And that having more information to work with really takes us to the second benefit, which is if you have that in any area of the business, then you've got better alignment of the motivation of the individual with what the business needs. So the more that we understand what it is that actually motivates each employee, and very annoyingly, they're all completely unique. They're at different stages of life and expertise and interest, and they want different things. But effectively unlocking what does growth look like for this person? What's the next challenge that's going to excite and energize them? What creates a sense of stability from which they can build on a firm base? Perhaps you've had a lot of changes recently and they need some of that reassurance and chance to talk about them still having a place within your ecosystem. Perhaps they're excited about moving into leadership. Maybe they want more flexibility and autonomy. That, the more that you can unpack that and get really clear about who you've got in front of you and what's going to be their next stage of progression in their identity and their expertise, the more that you can use that to improve the feedback that you give them, to tweak the design of their roles, to customize development opportunities, to set out for them the possibilities about emerging business needs that might align with what they're interested in, and perhaps give them more of a roadmap in not necessarily a conventional career pathing, but more of a greater sense of the kind of step-by-steps that they might be taking to move them towards realizing more of their goals and ambitions, whilst also supporting the business to be successful. The other benefit of really understanding what motivation looks and feels like and what people want is that it allows you to early identify when they're at risk of disengaging, whether that's a flight risk, whether there is a kind of ceiling about progression within the environment that they're in, whether they're just feeling a bit frustrated and bored, that they kind of have mastered the job and have a little bit too much sort of free time to twiddle their thumbs, and they just want to do more and get more out of their work. So, having this juicy insight and being able to have an open dialogue about this on a regular basis gives you a number of business benefits. It allows you to have much greater engagement and productivity, because when people feel that you are taking a personal interest in them and where they're going, and you've designed a bespoke development program alongside that for them, then they're really embedded, invested, and they feel valued and seen. That then reduces the kind of voluntary turnover, the surprise resignations, the unexpected, because people feel like, I have a place here, I'm seen, I'm valued, and I'm doing good stuff. And when we feel like that, what do? We make stronger discretionary efforts. We put in more time to see something through and to really deliver against it. And of course, we get improved morale and employer brand. And in clients, we would typically see that exhibited by lower turnover, higher retention, and better engagement scores.
Absolutely. And so what that leads to in terms of number 3 is more effective use then of your people and the opportunities that are there before them. Transparent career pathways where I can feel as an employee, I see a place for me here, and I can see how I might maneuver, not in the old traditional ways of just upwards or backwards, but over there into new sort of projects. So you're matching people to projects, to roles, so you can really push them into new pathways where they're stretching their talent. And also internal mobility becomes much more intentional then, rather than a sort of an accidental or assumption-based moving people around, which might really go against what they want for themselves. So in terms of business benefits, we're talking much more about faster capability building. So faster reactions to movement of people in different roles, improved agility because you're responding to change both as an organization, because you've got the knowledge about who you've got and where they want to be, but also for individuals to be quite agile in their response to changes within the organization. They've got a better clarity of themselves and their thriving zone. And this sort of reduced reliance on external hiring. So we're reducing cost, but also we're building brand internally. So people see that they're picked for solutions to complex situations in the business that might need solving.
External hiring is not just expensive, it's very time consuming. So clients tell us again and again how wonderful it is to be able to draw on and really know who they have in their rich talent pool, and to therefore much more quickly be able to respond to opportunities, business needs, business redesign, than going out into the world, finding an unknown, needing to help them become familiar with the organization, doing all the negotiation, the onboarding, to have them be productive and still be a bit more of a risk than a known quantity within the organization. So there is a huge time save as well as a financial save in being more clued up about who you've got and where they want to go next. And there's nothing more helpful, this is number 4, than a shared language for careers. Like, for so many of us, we don't have a narrative, a framework, a kind of standardized way of talking about what a career looks and feels like for us, where we want to go. And we aren't really clear about whether we're allowed even to have those conversations within the business. So for many large firms, the problem is fundamentally that if you do recognize that career conversations would be useful, and lots of organizations do, but you don't have a standardized language and approach for that, then those conversations' quality will vary wildly by the person who's doing it. The personality of the manager, the framework that they're using, the geography that they're in, the cultures that they're in, the function that they're in. And yes, some of those are going to be great, but many of them are going to be vague, they're going to be defensive, or they're just not going to happen at all. And in any world of work, having a nice, clear framework for here's how to, kind of agenda items to cover, the language to use, the expectations to manage, just makes it so much easier to do anything. You wouldn't operate your financial system without a clear operating system that everybody understands. Why would you neglect that when you're talking about your careers of the most important asset that you have, which is your people? So the career equation, or any other solid model with robust IP, gives you a number of benefits. It gives every manager and every employee a common, simple structure for talking about their careers. And in the equation, that looks like, what are you good at? The skills. Where do you get your motivation, energy? What are your passions? What do you enjoy? How do you measure your contribution and your value? That's the impact piece. And then what are the environmental frictions or opportunities that help you do your best work or prove more challenging? And how can we reduce that friction in the systems, in the workload, in the structure, and what is it that brings out the very best in you? And having a good model and structure for that and language for that then removes the guesswork. People don't have to make it up on the fly. They don't have to rely on jargon that may or may not connect with people. As an organization, you don't have the risk of really having to depend on what's the manager's personality like and are they naturally disposed to this kind of thing. So it's a really useful piece of tech to introduce to give everyone a framework and a shared language. And for the business, that means that, like as you would want in other quality controls, career conversations become more consistent, they become more fair, they are repeatable, and they become less hit and miss. And if they follow the same framework, then the downloading of that data becomes a lot more scalable and a lot more tangible and a lot more usable for you as a people leader and as a business. And that scalability extends and transfers across geography, across tenure, across job function. There isn't a different career equation depending on industry or job family. And of course, the easier it is then to have that conversation and to understand the model, the easier it's going to be for people to pick up and the more willing they're going to be willing to do that. So as you start to, of course, have new people in the organization all the time and new ways of doing things, it becomes easy for the new employees to pick up. It can just become a standard process in your induction, and it can be transmitted both formally and informally. So you might have it in your leadership programs, your induction programs, your early careers programs, but you also have it in just the kind of general conversation about this is how we do careers around here, and this is the language that we tend to use, and where you can find more information about it.
Yeah, and that leads so nicely. This is how we do career conversations around here to number 5, which is that it shifts careers from a sort of HR problem to a shared ownership. And that sort of addresses that old parent-child dynamic in the workplace, problem being that employees traditionally have expected the organization to really manage their career. And yet managers fear opening the conversation that they can't solve. So with the career equation, it explicitly reframes a career as co-owned. So it's based on the employee's own insight, their intent and their agency, like what matters most to them. And managers are enabled then to have the conversation to provide clarity, to provide options about what development opportunities there might be and how they can best support that. And from an organizational point of view, that helps them design their 4 pathways and reduces this sort of friction of it just being HR's problem to solve. And we've all got to just sort of wait and see what happens. So it reduces that emotional pressure on managers to have all the answers, because it's a much more of a honest adult conversation and far less about avoiding the tricky bits where we think, oh, I don't want to go there. Managers will dodge a conversation that they feel puts them in a compromising position completely understandably, or it makes them overpromise when they don't want to. HR often see this as another thing that lands in their lap, that they don't always have the power to change. They're just seen as hand it to HR or they'll deal with it. And it's not always an easy position for them to be in. Yeah, when an individual really owns and designs their career and owns the conversation, there's much, much more of a proactive ownership. And the coach, therefore the manager or the mentor, whoever's part of that conversation, is in the right position as their sort of supporter, if you like, or their champion, their sounding board, rather than this sort of fixer or recruiter that's sat internally. We're certainly not saying that HR have no part to play in this. Of course, your people are going to have natural aptitude and curiosity for these kinds of conversations. So in that mix, you've got internal recruiters, learning, HR BPs. They can all benefit from being trained in this method. I think what we're saying really here, Erica, isn't it, is that the model it can be part of a conversation for anybody within the business. It doesn't have to sit in any one department. So that's why we talk about it becoming ultimately the way we talk about careers around here. And what we want is for everyone to buy into the value of that. Managers and employees and HR and leaders and board members, everybody throughout the business.
Yeah, absolutely. It's so common for us in initial client conversations for clients to say, I want you to train our managers in how to do career conversations. And it seems to fall just to the manager. And that's fine. Like, training managers is important. They are a wonderful go-to resource. And it's really important that everyone feels that the individual owns their career and that the managers are there to nurture and help grow that career, and that the organization enables that, and that there is more of a suite of people than just my line manager, because for a variety of reasons, they may or may not be the right person at that particular time. So I would always say managers, and the other common one is, we need to train HR, we need to train our recruiters and talent, which is absolutely true. We've seen amazing leverage from internal recruiters and HR becoming a go-to place for addressing a kind of unwillingness or reluctance about internal recruitment, helping to open people's perspective around that. And it's really great when you've got a range of business leaders, peers, colleagues with whom you can use the same framework to have that conversation. And it lifts some of the load from managers to be the go-to person. So it's about that shared ownership and taking a little bit of the parent-child dynamic that can get in of, you will sort it for me, and then a sort of unreasonable sense of responsibility for the perceived senior, inverted commas, parent within that dynamic. We really want the individual to feel that they have the autonomy, that they have the ability to take ownership and make great stuff happen. And often they need a conversation to get them going with that, and to know what they've got permission for, and to know where the opportunities lie in the business. And if you do that, and this is our point 6, if you do start those conversations, then you improve retention without promising promotion. Because a lot of the time, managers feel, we've got a whole episode about managers' worries, so do check that one out when it comes live, that they need to solve all the problems, that they need to find the next opportunity, that the conversation will only be about promotion. But actually, it's a much wider dilemma than that. You lose high performers, not necessarily because they cannot get a promotion and get more pay, but because one way or another, they feel stuck. They feel like, I'm struggling to grow myself. And promotion is a way of keeping score, but it's not the only way to grow. That they feel invisible. They're not being seen and recognized for what they can do. That perhaps they're feeling underused. So they've got more to give, but the role, the opportunity, the environment isn't making that possible for them. And maybe they're unclear on their future options, which may be as a result of them outgrowing the role that they are in, or a large change within the organization. So it could be environmental, but it could also be just on an individual basis. I'm struggling to see where my future will be. So embedding a model for quality career conversations helps you in a number of ways with this. It enables the employee to start to really see the opportunities for multiple ways of progressing that are not promotions alone. So that could be skill deepening in a particular area of expertise. It could be taking on a lateral move that allows them to expand their skill set and employability. It could be taking on a specific project that's really valuable for the business at that time and allows them to sprint towards a completion without necessarily changing the role that they're in, but certainly prepping them for other roles in the future on the back of that experience. And it offers them stretch without a title change. So it normalizes the idea that not everything in terms of growth and progress is about getting to the next role. Sometimes it is about getting to the next horizon in who you are. And in the equation model, once people have defined what we call their career design, so, what is my character, what environment suits me best, and then what goals and plans do I have on the back of that, it becomes way easier for the organization and for the individual to identify the right growth opportunities that align with that aspiration and move them closer to that. So the result is that you get much better retention of critical talent without feeling like you've got to inflate their titles or fundamentally change the structure. We're basing it on a very individualized design for what future growth looks and feels like for a person. And it focuses on what you can do as a manager, as a talent leader, even if there is a pay or headcount freeze, because again, a lot of clients will say we're running shy of it at the moment because there's a lot that we can't do. So it's really important that you don't seize up and stop talking in those contexts, because that doesn't help, but really exploring what is it that we can do based on the insight about who we've got in front of us. And it enables everyone then to get creative in the name of supporting the person to make progress and ensure their growth and evolution within your business.
And with all that rich information and knowledge, it brings us to number 7, which is unlocking internal mobility and talent flow. You know, if we've got organizations where they say they want internal mobility, but what they lack is a shared sort of criteria or the confidence in moving people sideways rather than just this up or backwards business, or a way to surface that hidden capability, that's where they're stuck in that. We can't unlock mobility then. But where the career equation comes in with that richness of information, it makes those skills and impact explicit and much more portable, because we've got a high level of clarity around what everybody's aspirations are and what they bring with them. So it encourages that kind of cross-functional move by reframing the fit. So the fit becomes not just about the business need fit, but about the individual's need fit as well. And it helps managers release talent without feeling like they're losing out, because they see it much more about this is what's right for the business, but what's right for the person as well, the individual. As a result, you've got better redeployment because it's more likely to fit and be a happy place and a happy fit. You've got stronger succession pipelines because you've got more knowledge behind you in terms of who's going to go where, and you're reducing those external hiring costs as well.
And another key element, I think, for us is about meritocracy and transparency. Point 8 is that a quality career conversation structure model will reduce bias and it will increase the fairness in the career support that is available. All too often, there's a feeling that career progression favours those who are loudest, who complain the most, who are the most confident in articulating what they want, and those who perhaps by virtue of their kind of charisma or the way they carry themselves look like they're leaders already, you know, and there can be this real disgruntlement between those who are really solid performers, but maybe not as showy about what they say and how they say about their accomplishments. I always liken this to the classroom. If you think about in the classroom, you've got the kids who are really struggling one way or another or throwing the chairs, and they're going to take up a lot of attention because they are vulnerable and need a lot of support. And then you've got your high performers and the sort of high volumers as well. So the people who are always chatting and joking in class or whatever. And they, again, take significant chunk of attention. And in the middle, you've got these really solid performers. And because they aren't troublesome, because they don't have anything distinct, it seems, about what they need, or they aren't raising their hand often in one way or another, they become a little unseen. And that in your business, those people are what makes the business happen. They are the engine room. And so it's really important that there is a sense of fairness and equity about everybody having an equal opportunity to access a chance to talk about their careers. And knowing what your framework is for that, knowing who are the people that you can go to, and letting people know what they can expect from the conversation and where responsibilities lie is absolutely crucial in the perception of fairness and transparency and the opportunity for meritocracy. So I think that's a huge, huge benefit, actually, of having one way of doing things. And that neutrality of the structure is a big support for neurodivergent talent, for those returning perhaps after a break, after a loss, after a health crisis, after a child. For women, if you see increased attrition as you move up the organization, and for underrepresented groups who may be less traditional in terms of their experience of navigating those environments, who may feel like they don't see representatives and role models that they can really stand and align with. In those environments, being able to really focus on who is this person, what are they good at, where do they want to go, what matters most to them, and having a framework for having that discussion that isn't about confidence theatre and melodrama allows everybody to equally participate. And in a couple of our programs where we've worked very specifically with those audiences and groups, it's been wonderful to see the acceleration in their confidence, in the business making great use of them, and really noticing all this fantastic talent that they have. And it's also about that equity of, when we run open programs, that anybody at the time that it suits them can jump onto a program and do a deep dive about where am I now, just taking stock around their career, preparing themselves for a quality conversation, preparing themselves for a new opportunity or interview from the position of, I understand my career design and who I am. And not everyone has had access to that in an equitable way previously, whether it's from school, academic backgrounds, their family, etc. I think this is a hugely important aspect of any D&I program. And the result is that you get more equitable access to development and opportunity for everyone, which is exactly how it should be. And the business then doesn't overlook fantastic talent because it's focusing on the me's over the perhaps more quieter, more considered, and, maybe just getting on with it crew, right? So they shouldn't be underserved because they're doing a great job without the drama.
And alongside that, in it, number 9 is that it's going to strengthen your manager's capability without overloading them, which I think is really key, because we're often expecting our managers to take on something else, and here's another thing to add to your ever-growing to-do list. And the reality is that managers are usually time poor. It's really difficult to cram all of these things in. They're often undertrained in some of the areas they're expected to take on. And from this kind of career conversation point of view, they're really nervous about opening up kind of Pandora's box into like, oh gosh, if I go there, what's going to come out of the box? Yeah. With the career equation, the benefit is that it gives the managers a really lovely, simple and practical, clear conversation scaffold. Yeah. So it reduces the fear by really making those kind of boundaries explicit and separating out the listening from solving, which is often what they feel like, I've got to solve the problems of the person in front of me. And therefore it begins to build that confidence really quickly, even for the most inexperienced of leaders. Its design is to be simple for anybody, regardless of their seniority or years in the business as a leader, for anybody to use. So the result then is that managers can have career conversations. And it's not just about doing the thing. It's about, actually, I really enjoy it. I've really enjoyed and valued that conversation myself. So it doesn't feel like this tick box exercise. Oh, gosh, I've got to do these things.
And in an ideal world, when we're given enough time to train managers on career conversations, and that's one of the tips I would definitely say is like, be generous with the time for planning this through. When they get the chance to practice and come back and share with us about their stories, it's so exciting and interesting to see. Because whether they've been perhaps promoted from amongst their peers and now they are managing people who were previously their peers and may know more about, the technical aspect that they're managing or whatever, whether they are having new joiners arrive in their team, whether they've got folks earlier in their career who need a bit of nurture, whether they've got a person returning after absence, the career conversation is a way of deeply reconnecting and forging that sense of team and capacity and valuing the individual in front of you. And they come and tell us that in a variety of different ways in a huge range of different contexts. And it's easy to think that career conversations are only relevant when people want to move, but they're actually really useful when people have just arrived. They're also really useful when people are like, I do want to stay. I'm not actually looking to make a move, but there is more in me and there's more that I'd like to talk about. So they're a fantastic lever for managers to kind of open up latent potential and latent capacity that they weren't aware of. And it's wonderful when they start to see that this isn't just about getting nervous about someone asking you for 10K more, and you think that's going to be the only aspect of the conversation. It is really about the growth, the feedback, the tailoring of role, the better understanding who's in front of you. And by virtue of having that strengthened relationship, of course, the retention and the openness and a sort of early warning if someone is starting to outgrow the opportunities that the business has. So it's a generous thing to do for your managers to give them the chance to practice and to do this properly. And the benefits for you are really significant. So I guess our sort of final piece is that then it provides measurable insight. When you've got a good quality career conversation framework going on, then you've got measurable insight about what your people want and you can frame what you're doing in a really structured and data-driven way, not just as a result of a path of good intentions. A lot of the time, career initiatives feel nice, but they're quite hard to quantify. So clients will tell us about careers weeks that they've done, careers days. They'll talk about having talks by inspiring people around their careers. Those things are all great feel goods, but do they actually move the needle in relation to the things that are important? The bottom line, the finances, the performance, the engagement scores, the tenure, the retention, the mobility. So having a great career conversation framework is going to give you a huge amount of data that you can use in a really informed way and that you can track. It will tell you how many people have clarity about their career and where they're going next. You can track how many of them have set out goals and plans on the back of the conversation. It provides an opportunity to identify where the perceptions are of frictions in the environment that are slowing people down. And they may be things that are really fixable, but you just didn't know that they were a problem for people. An example would be that a lot of the time when I talk to clients, they don't yet have a clear career philosophy. So people will say, well, it's great that, we're talking about my career, but I've got no idea what to expect or where I can go next or what you want for me. And that's a very fixable thing that a business can sort, but you wouldn't know it until you had a conversation with me about my career here and what's working for me, what's working against me. Of course, it also helps you flag when someone has readiness for movement. We're working with an organization at the moment who's done a lot of work on skills pathing. But in order for that to be useful, you also need to have a flag that says, I'm looking, I'm interested, this is what I want to do next. And that needs to be informed by a quality shared understanding between the individual and the business, and for that to be recorded somewhere in a way that people can access. And again, that is then data that you can use to drive your strategy. And lastly, it helps you to work out what's a capability gap versus an aspiration gap. So if somebody has something they want to achieve, what do we need to have in place, both in terms of helping them with the skills and capabilities to be able to move in that direction with confidence? And where might we be holding them back because they've got an aspiration, but we didn't know anything about it, we haven't put anything in place. So as a result of that, a career strategy becomes something that you can diagnose and improve for each individual, for each team, for each division. And then you can start to track the outputs from those dialogues. So are we getting our career plans into the system? Do we have career goals set out for everybody over the next year? How many conversations are taking place and with what regularity? And then the metrics that surround that become KPIs that you can attend to. Can we see the needle move on internal moves? Are we seeing more internal promotions at particular levels? Are we holding on to particular specialists better than we were before? Have we reduced our hiring costs and our recruiter costs? Do we have greater business continuity from having people staying and deepening their role? And are we having maybe less tribunal and ER cases as well that often are indicative of the person is in the wrong environment, they're in the wrong job fit? And career conversations are fantastic for course correcting around that. And is our CFO feeling happy? We've been able to show that we can deliver some real savings and some real asset growth on the back of putting the right people in the right place. And I would always encourage you to just give some thought as you begin to explore investing in your careers framework, your careers philosophy, your career conversation structure, to say, what is it that we're going to see in the world that's different? And what are the metrics that we're going to track around that? And try to be really specific and tangible around that, because when you see it, you really, really see it. And for a lot of our clients, that's been exponential growth in retention of particular audiences, or much, much better data in terms of checking their assumptions about what people want for the future, or much more effective skills and career pathing, or recognizing that actually, yes, we haven't really said enough about what our philosophy is or what good looks like, or have we really recognized and rewarded managers who are doing this well? So really do think about what the metrics that matter and work back from there.
And what we're doing is getting to a place here where we align career strategy with the business strategy. So they go hand in hand together, because often careers are kind of disconnected in some way to this future, business aspiration and future capability needs. So the career equation benefit from our point of view is that it links the individual's aspiration to strategic skills priorities, to emerging roles, to the transformation agenda, so they can see how clearly they're aligned. And it helps employees see why certain skills matter in the business right now, where their talents align with that, and which parts of the organizations be a really great fit for their next kind of move and opportunity. So the result is that we've got a workforce developing in the right direction, not just any old direction, and that it's fit for specific future needs as you move forward.
So in summary, to just pull it all together as a kind of too long didn't read, a career conversation strategy, a proper one that's really sets out the what, the why, the how, and that's grounded in a model that works for you. We like the career equation, other models are available, is going to give you really good visibility and control over the abilities of your people, their motivation, and helping them to harness the opportunities. You will turn your career development from an informal activity into a really genuine strategic lever that is going to drive retention, performance, and long-term organizational capacity. Over and over again, our clients are astounded by the power of embedding this conversation. It is a lever for results that they have been chasing and investing in for a long time, but it was a lever that they hadn't thought to pull.
And we talk a lot about trackable return on investment. And then if you don't believe us, then why not try it for yourself? You could pick a pilot for a small key talent group or a specific division, or, a high attrition role or specific stage, wherever you want in the business, early careers, latter careers, it doesn't matter. But why not pick a small group, pilot it, and let us show you the impact that the career equation will have on career conversations in your business. So do get in touch with us if you'd like to learn more about how we can help you to do that.
And final next steps, a simple way to do that, get a copy of the career equation book. There's loads of stories there from world-class organizations about how they've embedded the equation, how they've got results. We've got a great free career conversations agenda guide on the website. You're very, very welcome to just, pop your email in and receive that. And that will show you the exact framework for how to start a conversation. And if you're in HR and you'd like a scalable way to make these kinds of conversations integrated into your culture, just get in touch with us at the Career Equation website.
And remember, we help organizations embed high quality career conversations. That's what we do. That will improve retention, engagement, and performance.
And you can find out more at thecareerequation.com or just hit listen on the next episode. And we'll look forward to speaking to you again soon. Ta-ra!